Hi Anish, thank you so much for joining us on Blitz Business. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Ashish. A pleasure to be here. Heard a lot about you. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Let's get started. So, Anish, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Okay, great. So, Ashish, I'm a classical engineer, MBA. I did my MBA from the Asian Institute of Management, and ended up working for some great companies, from Hindustan Unilever to Coca-Cola to Samsung, where I learned business, I learned sales and marketing, I learned from the best, and I applied it in perhaps the most exciting market in the world, which is the Indian market. I think the learnings that I got from there were, instrumental in my forming a view of how knowledge and learning affects outcomes for individuals in India. And that journey got me attracted to the whole education space. And about 15 years ago, I took on the responsibility of initially leading marketing for Pearson India, and subsequently becoming the head for its higher education operations in India. That was a really insightful journey, and I think it was at the very early stage of private education in India. So if you look at the period between 2010 and 2015, it is really where private education, both regulated as well as unregulated, came of age in India. You saw a lot of investment action happening. You saw a lot of Indian as well as foreign private entities committing their funds and their bandwidth to improving education outcomes in India. And from the period 2015 to now, as Neil somewhat put it, I have been here at TimesPro. I've had the supreme privilege of leading this company and working along with the founder, managing director, Mr. Vineet Jain of the Times Group, as well as a very special team that I have had the honor of putting together. We've been able to make TimesPro into one of the most storied and one of the largest edtech organizations in India. And I think we've managed to create, excitement and outcomes for well over 3 million learners in that period.
Wow.
So yes, it's been an interesting journey, and it's been wonderful to go through it. In a career of 30 years, I think about 50% of it has been in the education sector. And yes, I'm still learning. I'm still charged up to take this to the next level.
So let's talk about little bit about edtech sector. It's very interesting because everyone has sort of seen the rise or the companies like Byju's all getting the headline news and everything. So what is the current landscape of edtech sector? What's currently happening? Where is the opportunity?
So I think, before answering that question, it's perhaps instructive to go back to the question of why edtech was even relevant.
Hmm.
Not only in the Indian context, but even in the global context as well. See, the problems that the traditional educational institutions could not or would not solve were the ones that the so-called private education or the edtech sector took up. Now, I often say that when I started out my journey in private education, the word edtech had not yet been coined. But the problem that we were trying to solve was the same, right? It's a problem of access and affordability, right? Now, worldwide, you have this model of creating islands of excellence. You have this model of creating brick and mortar institutions. And most of those islands of excellence earn their spurs by the number of people that they are able to reject, right? So whether you look at the Harvard universities of the world, the Ivy Leagues of the world, or you look at the Indian premium institutions, they earn their spurs by their very selective choice of candidates who can go through the excellence portal. which is fair, which is the way an excellence institution should be. But when you look at the opportunity for millions of learners who are in some ways disadvantaged, who are either economically or due to other social circumstances unable to go and put themselves into an institute of excellence for 2 to 3 years and earn a degree, you have to think differently. You have to think out of the box. So that's where the edtech concept originally took root.
Mm-hmm.
I think somewhere along the way, because of the undercapitalization of the sector, because inherently there was no money 10 years ago in private education, we have kind of gotten into a valuation based argument,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that has had its pros and cons, right? So I don't want to get into specific brands, but we have had a certain amount of hype, a certain amount of overselling, as it were, of what kind of financial returns an edtech company can give,
So
and
it's
consequently, you've had some weird valuations and you've had some weird expectations.
so is it the overselling which caused the trouble in the segment?
I would say it's the overselling to investors, uh, and somewhat misplaced expectation of speed of returns, which has caused a bit of a froth. And it's not unheard of, right? We have seen this happen in sector after sector, where tech was expected to quickly scale things up and create a massive pool of paying learners or paying customers. We've seen that in the e-commerce sector. We've seen, the initial froth, and then it is replaced by more rational behavior. Then you have a little bit of consolidation. So pretty much similar trends are happening in the edtech sector as well. But like I said, there were pros and cons to this, right? So I think the pros are that we have seen a rush of, besides a rush of capital, we have also seen a rush of solid professionals coming into this sector.
Mm.
We have seen a problem solving approach coming into this sector. We've seen people approaching the traditional problems of employability, of learning outcomes, all of that from a very analytical perspective. And these were good outcomes for the edtech sector. And I think this is what will drive the next 10 years of the wave of edtech. And I'm sure that the downfall of some of the large, hyped up players will actually be salutary to the kind of management and the kind of efforts that the more rational edtechs will put in for the next decade.
So what is the current structure at TimesPro? Like what all things are you guys into?
So we are in the higher education tech sector. So I define my sector as a head tech sector. We look at people who are coming out of the education system and are seeking a career in Indian companies or indeed outside. And we look at it in three distinct business segments. So if you're just coming out of high school or even a graduation, and if you're looking at your first job, what are the skills that you require? What can we train you with so that you are relevant to an employer and you're able to perform from day
Just
one?
after school, you're saying?
After high school as well as after graduation. So
Okay.
these are two different segments, right? So after high school, you have a huge dropout rate, post which there is a need for employment, and this is where your underemployment problem comes in. So can you impact that by giving specific skills that people can then build a career out of? And then the second is the immediately after graduation phase, where the traditional education system has not equipped you with the skills required for you to be competent in a job environment. So you need certain skills. So, for instance, if you want to go for the banking sector or the hospitality sector, you need a certain repository of skills, right? Which your traditional 16 years of education has not given. So we step in to say, hey, here's a specific course on banking or on supply chain or on hospitality. If you take it, then you become eligible to apply for the large number of jobs thrown up by those growing sectors. So the early career segment is what I just described, whether
So
it's from school or from college.
understood. So
The
what is
second
Anish?
segment is that of working professionals.
Okay. Okay. Please go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Go.
So the second segment is that of working professionals. So you already got your job, your first job, and couple of years in, you are seeing that, hey, in order to grow, I need certain superior skills. So if you're an engineer and you're in your first job, you feel today the need for a knowledge of AI or generative AI to be able to grow. If you're in a hospitality sector, you know that unless you're able to look at certain aspects of the hospitality business, like revenue management, for instance, you will not be able to grow, right? So, and similarly for every field, from banking to sales to marketing, there are new age skills that are required unless for people to be able to grow within their job. So we bring those skills in a executive education format to learners across the country. All of these are consumed through our learning experience platform, and it is designed for working professionals. So it's either late in the evening or during the weekends, through a physical learning center, if you will, or completely through online means. So we partner with institutes of excellence like IIMs and IITs. And connecting back to my earlier point about excellence, access, and affordability, we ensure that these programs are available to a large majority of working professionals at affordable prices and with ease of access. So that's the second segment, which is the executive education segment. The third segment, Ashish, are you still with me?
Yes.
So the third segment is enterprise training. So as a business owner, or as management of a business, you feel the need to upskill your workforce to be able to become more productive, to drive your objectives faster, better. So you have partners like TimesPro come up to you and say, hey, here's your training need analysis. This is where each part of your business needs to upskill, and we can help you provide those skills. Whether it is data skills, whether it is soft skills, whether it is run of the mill training programs in sales, marketing, and so on. We become a partner to such private. We are also one of the largest training providers for government. So we do a lot of capability building programs for government, both central as well as state. And we also help with many of the skilling initiatives of the government of India, wherein right from village schools to vocational training centers, there is a need for skilling programs which will lead to employability. So those are broadly the three segments in which TimesPro operates.
So out of these three, Anish, if my guess is, I think enterprise will be number one for you, then working professional, then the rest. Because I'm thinking based on in terms of paying capabilities, right?
Well,
Organization can pay well versus then working professional, then a undergrad, and then a high school dropout or something.
you're right. In terms of unit economics, yes. Each enterprise customer is a very strong, viable segment for us. But in terms of overall scale, if you were to take a step back and look at each of the business units, I believe that our B2C business units, especially in the employability domain, have the biggest potential to scale because of the sheer numbers. Right. So today, if you look at how edtech has evolved, mostly we have been talking to the middle and the upper middle class segment, right? So the top of the pyramid, as it were. Now, as you see growth percolating down that pyramid, the next 10% and the next 10%, that's where you're seeing much higher aspiration, much higher drive, and naturally much higher volume of learners. and in being able to cater to that segment with both access and affordability, and being able to give outcomes to those learners. That's really where we see our future
And is there
business.
any reason, Anish, you guys not, or are you already in test prep thing? Because that's a massive segment, right? Uh, Hugely profitable. Numbers are excellent for traditional businesses who have been operating in this space. So, any reason you have kept yourself out of it?
No, so there's see, Ashish, we since we are operating in the higher education and employability space, we have not specifically looked at high stakes testing. Now, high stakes testing is a very interesting and very distinct segment within education, right? So when you look at IIT prep, or when you look at GATE prep, those are very distinct segments, and these are very faculty led kind of segments, right? And we are constantly evaluating opportunities there, but it's not a segment where we have consciously gone and tried to grow organically. Because the rhythm of that segment is a very different rhythm, whereas our rhythm is focused on learner career outcomes.
And yesterday, I was having a very interesting conversation because someone came to my office from this space. He teaches at NYU and some subject, and we were just discussing. And I don't know the correctness of the number, but it's within this ballpark. So I wanted to hear your thoughts since we are having this conversation. So every year in India, almost what 12 lakh engineers graduate, if like around that ballpark, 10, 12 lakh number. And at the peak of hiring, like at the peak, like after pandemic, the peak hiring which happened was approximately
I've
4,
lost
5
you, Ashish.
lakhs, right? So the question is, there is this huge gap. I mean, aren't there just too many engineers in the market as of now?
No, you're right. I think we've seen some pushback on this whole concept of, if you're not an engineer, you're not going to be successful in your career. I think that is more of a 90s thing.
Hmm.
And today, I think you're seeing greater consciousness amongst both learners as well as parents,
Hmm.
that there are multiple other career choices possible. Having said that, as an employer, I can tell you, Ashish, that if if I go out to find strong engineering talent for coding or for any other core engineering area, uh, good engineering talent is difficult to find,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
So there is a dichotomy there, right? On the one hand, we have too many engineers. On the other hand, when employers are struggling to find talent, there is a scarcity of that kind of talent. So I think there is a lot to be said about the quality of engineering training that happens, and there is a lot to be said about why learners choose to go for engineering. Very large percentage of learners do not pursue a technology post graduation, or indeed a technology job after their engineering. Many of them instead opt for either further education as an MBA, or into some completely other field of either education or employment. So I think there's something to be examined about this whole supply chain of test prep leading to very high engineering enrollments, and this whole commentary about BE becoming the new BA, because it's a crisis where both industry and academia are feeling the pinch. And that industry academia bridge is something that TimesPro is working very hard to fill.
But why do you think? What's the reason, Anish, from your experience, since you're from this segment? Like, itni quality is so less, volume is so high. Like, what has gone wrong in this entire, as you said, the supply chain? From your understanding,
It
whatever.
goes back. It goes back to, and I'm not going to comment on the socio-economic aspects of it. That would be a different podcast. But it goes back to what I said initially about the problem that TimesPro is trying to solve. Right? It's about access and affordability to excellence. So while you have a large number of campuses, you do continue to have a shortage of good quality faculty in them, right? So it's a cascading effect, right? So you have a new campus which does not have great faculty, that leads to a lot of engineering students who are coming out ill-equipped, and they don't find employment. And in a very perverse, vicious cycle, these same graduating students are employed again by these colleges as faculty. So it has led to a vicious cycle, and you'll see many of these engineering colleges, especially of more recent vintage, have actually had to shut down
Oh,
because at the end of the day, learners are smart. They are looking at, hey, outcomes. What did my seniors get, right? And when those answers aren't there, then there is obviously pushback. So I think where brands like TimesPro come in is to look at early interventions. Look at, let's say, hey, how is this student best equipped to become a more productive citizen? How is the student, best equipped to, get his and his family out of their current economic situation and into a better economic situation? So we have assessments which are platform based, which can be easily administered to large number of early career students, uh, which can help them assess as to, hey, which sector are they best prepped for. So in 15 minutes, a report can be provided which says, hey, given your skill sets, you're perhaps better suited for X, Y, or Z industry. And this is how we believe you can be equipped to work in that area. And I think a lot of these anomalies that we see in our system, right? You mentioned the engineering system as an example, but I would suggest that if you look at the BCom or if you look at any of our undergraduate courses, uh, the problems are similar,
hmm.
right? What we have done to an extent is to take a large number of kids, put them through, a formal 3 years or 4 years of education, which brings with it discipline, etc., etc., but not always skills, right? So that skill gap is something that remains to be uh, concluded at the end of that course, which is where we come in and we are able to then realize outcomes.
So, what are milestones, Anish, you're looking at now in Times Pro? Like, what do you want to achieve, let's say, for next 5 years?
So we have very clear milestones that we have set out for every one of our business segments, right? And thankfully, we were able to diversify the company across various segments, and we've been able to therefore ride through certain macro shocks like COVID, and more recently the tech shock that is taking place, and so on. But at a very broad level, what we are looking for is the ability to scale this business across the maximum number of learners, especially in the early career space, and to create a lifetime value for all of those learners who are coming onto the Times Pro app or the Times Pro platform at an early stage, and help them through their learning cycles and their career cycles all the way up to, let's say, a leadership level. So if somebody comes onto the Times Pro app at age 18 or at age 23, we aim to have enough to keep that learner engaged uh, all the way until his age of retirement at age 55 or so. So the idea, Ashish, is that we are able to create this library, this outcome library, as we call it, which will keep learners engaged throughout their lifetime, and that's the goal. In terms of specific numbers, we are at about 3.5 million learners now. I believe that that can be 10x over the next 5 years. That's the scale at which we are going.
Understood. Understood. Then moving on, Anish. So let's talk about some more interesting stuff. We are into political season. Elections are happening. So, what are your opinion, thoughts, any suggestions in terms of policy you wanted to suggest?
Ashish, I think one of the best documents that I've seen coming out of any government has been the recent the national education policy which has come out. So I think the NEP, if implemented in full, can be a very powerful agent of change.
Give us an example. How? Why?
So let me take an example with higher education. Right now, we have a gross enrollment ratio of less than 26% in this country. Okay, when I say gross enrollment ratio, it's a simple computation of how many adults do we have of higher education age and how many are actually enrolled. Right? If the numerator is the enrolled number, the denominator is how many are eligible. We only have 26% of our eligible age students enrolled in any kind of higher education.
Okay.
Under the NEP, the government has set a goal of taking that 26% to 50% in 5 years. Okay. Now that's an ambitious goal. If you were to consider that all of this has to be realized only through brick and mortar institutions. However, the government has gone a step further in the NEP. They have for the first time opened up the degree to online consumption. Okay. So you can now earn your first degree as well as your second degree completely online. And this opens you up to the possibilities of earning while you're learning. Right. So if you're coming from a poor family, whether from a farming background or from any other, small business background, taking time off and going for 3 or 4 years to college, besides the cost of it, the time value of it is quite scary. But if you can now earn that degree while you are also earning and keeping your family's economics in place, then that's a huge liberator. So it comes back again to access and affordability. So I can now enable a university's degree online through a 4G or a 3G mobile connection to any learner anywhere in the country. And I'm not going to have dropouts because of an insistence on physical presence in a campus. The cost of these degrees has also come down dramatically, right? So what used to be, let's say, 100 rupees is now down to something like 5 rupees in an online medium, and that is dramatic, right? So if you can go through 3 years of of your undergraduation while you're working and earning without breaking the bank, that's a huge plus point. So very big change, right? So if you look at the opportunity set that it has opened up for dropouts from high school, it is tremendous, right? And employers also get to see very different ways of now populating their workforce, right? They actually can now go to schools and say, hey, you know what, rather than drop out of school and do something else, would you consider coming to work for us? We would, sponsor your online degree while you work. And hey, if you complete the degree and you're still working for us, we would not only reimburse the cost of that degree, we would also give you a promotion at the end.
But is an online degree at par with offline degree, Anish?
Yes, it is. And that's the other part of the NEP, because they have forbidden universities from differentiating in any way between the online and the offline. So I think it's a salutary document. Yes, it will have certain objections in terms of the quality and so on. But I think at the age and stage that our country is in, we can ill afford to sit on those ivory tower promises. There will be a time and place for us to correct quality, and I think that time and place is not upon us yet. Right now, it's the need of the hour is to expand access. The need of the hour is to be an enabler to any learner who wants to change his or her station in life through education.
Wonderful, wonderful. Awesome, awesome, awesome. One final last question, Anish, from my side. So, in this entire journey,
Ashish, I'm losing you again.
okay, can you hear me, Anish, now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So to wrap it up, one last question from my side, Anish. So in this entire span of your illustrious career, anything you wish you would have done differently?
Well, I wish I could have gotten into the education sector sooner. So, being a commercial manager is one thing. You are learning a lot, but at the end of the day, the satisfaction that one gets on a daily basis from being able to impact people,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying this from any kind of you know philosophical or philanthropic objective. We run for-profit companies, but the idea of being able to make a difference in the life of people through education, I think, is a very powerful idea. And like I said, despite being in a for-profit environment and driving commercial objectives for the company, I think the efficiency that we've been able to bring to the learning and the outcome from the learning is something that I take a lot of satisfaction from. So I think, yeah, if I had had the opportunity, perhaps I would have liked to have joined the education sector faster.
Thanks a ton, Anish, for your time. It was pleasure and helping us understand what's happening in simple words and helping us appreciate what you guys are doing.
Hey, thanks, Ashish. It was a pleasure talking to you. Let's try and meet up in person sometime.
Sure.